Inner Space is an initiative run by the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. We're a charity and have a presence in more than 110 countries worldwide. And we offer our courses, workshops, programs free of charge as a gift to the community. And as a result, we get wonderful people coming to our programs, people with big hearts that also want to give something to the world. So, as well as Sister Jayanti this evening, we have Neville, who's a good friend of Inner Space, to interview. So I'd like to invite Sister Jayanti to come onto the stage, and I'll say a little bit about her while she's coming. She's a spiritual teacher and leader, a pioneer and an emissary for peace. Her natural wisdom and gentle, though powerful personality have touched and inspired millions of people around the world. And anyone who knows the Just a Minute program and meditations, you will recognize the voice as soon as she starts speaking. She's the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University and assists in coordinating the university's activities in more than 130 countries. She's also the Brahma Kumaris representative to the UN in Geneva, and she's head of the BK Green delegation that goes to the environment conferences around the world. And we're very fortunate to have Neville Hodgkins, our old friend, back. If you'd like to come to the stage, Neville. Many of you have seen Neville's talks and workshops at Inner Space. He's worked for many years as a science and medical correspondent for national newspapers in the UK, including the Daily Mail and Sunday Times. In 1994, he gave up that journalistic career and wrote and writing and to live and work full-time in the retreat centre near Oxford. He's author of 2 books, Will to Be Well and AIDS, The Failure of Contemporary Science, but recently he's been authoring books under the Brahma Kumaris imprint. So it's a bonus to have Neville here to put some questions to Sister Jayanti and to take over the programme. Thank you very much.
Being the sort of chief executive of the charity in the UK and also in effect, globally, outside India, she has a lot of problems, a lot of issues to deal with that come up about buildings, about people, and really she does cope with an immense amount. And I've looked on with amazement as she's developed more and more resilience, which is our topic tonight. But I'm sure that her experience will be valuable to everybody because she is right inside this subject and still developing it. She's still being tested to the limits and beyond. As indeed I saw Daddy Jayanti, who's the head of the Brahma Kumaris. She was resident in the UK for about 40 years. Was it something like that?
That's
Jayanti?
right.
And I saw her grow and grow and grow in her capacity. So there's something about this, this particular spiritual journey that the Brahma Kumaris engage in that is far from, contemplating your navel or switching off and dropping out. It actually sometimes calls itself a hospital come university. So there's an element where you might sort of step back to heal and develop some strength to get you back on your feet, but then very much it seems that the emphasis is on getting out into the world again to really sort of test yourself and see how you can contribute to the world. So it's lovely to be with you, Jayanti.
Thank you.
Tonight's programme, you may remember that the flyer said Sister Jayanti will share insights to enable you to, and then there were three headings for that. And the first of those was increase inner strength. And I would like to ask, what do you mean by inner strength, or what is meant by inner strength in this context of resilience?
It means, well, first of all, good evening, and Om Shanti, a greeting of peace to all of you. What inner strength means to me is that each one of us has a certain capacity, say, for example, to be able to tolerate difficult people, difficult situations, difficult climates, all sorts of things. And we think that that's it, this is my limit, I can't do anything more than this. And yet what happens is, if you're learning to go inwards and make time for yourself, for reflection, for contemplation, then you're able to actually increase your own inner capacity, and your resilience grows, but also in a very practical way, you find that you're able to develop your tolerance capacity to be able to manage yourself, your feelings and your own emotions, no matter what else is going on around you. And so it's a very real thing that happens. You see yourself moving forward and changing as you continue on the spiritual path.
So where does it come from, this inner strength that, as you say, most people feel, well, I've got a certain level of tolerance or a certain capacity for work, etc., and that's that. This is my limit. But you're saying that some reflective practices built into your life will increase those capacities.
For me, it's been meditation. And if you go out into the spiritual marketplace, there's 1,000 different varieties. And if you try and practice each one to see which one you like best, it could take you the whole of your life. So I'm going to suggest the one that I try. And I was lucky that I came across this one first before being exposed to anything else. And this is called Raj Yoga. And yoga is a very familiar term to everyone, I think. But yoga is not actually just postures and something to do with physical health. It connects with that, but the word yoga actually means union, connecting. And we use the word Raja, the sovereign, the supreme. And it refers to the fact that the meditation we are practicing is the connection of the inner being, the soul, with the divine, with the supreme. And so a term that we use for God, and I'm bringing in this word even though I'm aware that there might be a bit of resistance to the word, but let me share it anyway. So people think about God as the one who has, or has been praised as the one who's the almighty authority. But that really means nothing to me in a sense, you know. What sort of authority is that? But it actually refers to the fact that there's a being who is the supreme, the ultimate, the divine, who is the source of spiritual power. And through the connection we make through our mind, as we connect with the divine, we are able to fill ourselves with that spiritual power, and that power is then visible. And I mentioned tolerance, but it's also other aspects of power. For example, another thing that's very much needed in today's world is to be able to increase my own discernment capacity. You know, we are living in an era that's been described as post-truth. And until about 18 months ago, I'd never heard the term fake news. And now you keep hearing about it. Fake news. So who's inventing it? Who's churning out all these stories which you then discover totally false? So at such a time, you need to be able to have an inner sense of discernment that's able to give you an understanding of what is real and what isn't real. And so that's another aspect of the inner power that you're able to experience and develop in your own life through this connection with the source of spiritual power.
Could you describe a bit more about that source and your connection with it? How does it, because many people have thought of God in the past, if they've thought about God, they've thought, well, it's like a comforting idea, or there have been these ideas that he might sort of throw thunderbolts and these sort of things. And of course there have been people in the great faith traditions who through the centuries we know have received great inspiration from their faith and their sense of connection to a divine source. But these days it's something that has sort of left most people's everyday cognizance, so to speak. It's not doesn't form part of our general understanding. So could you say a bit more about that?
I first of all came to the awareness of who I am, and to recognize that this physical body of mine is only one little part of my identity, a very important part in the sense that it's the physical chariot, the vehicle through which I, the inner being, operate. But everything that's important and significant about me, about I, is within this inner world of mine, which isn't physical. My thoughts, my feelings, my personality, all of these things you can't measure and weigh and touch, but they're very real. And so this is my spiritual identity as that inner being. And when I first started to meditate, it was very easy. And of course the practice continues and the experience continues to grow. But it was easy to come to that awareness of the inner being, the soul, a being of light. And then I was told that try experimenting and meditating on the supreme being, a soul, no bigger, no smaller, just a soul, but yet a soul who has all attributes, positive attributes, to the nth degree, unlimited. And so we use the term ocean, the ocean of love, the ocean of peace, unlimited. And what I found was when I experimented with this idea, it wasn't my imagination, but it was very real, that from that source, with that understanding that this isn't a being with a physical form or even an angelic form, there's just that being of light. And so connecting with that being of light gave me this experience of peace and purity and truth and a sense of belonging. It was a very natural connection. And some of you might have heard about the near-death experience. There have been many, many books written about this within the last quarter century. Prior to that, I don't think so, but certainly in the last 25 years, many books. And it's by scientists, it's by medical people. And their research has indicated that when people seem to die, but then through modern techniques they revived and come back again, when they've been out of the body, they've had an experience which can be documented in a pattern, almost like a formula that you can read. And in that experience, part of that is this experience of connecting with this light and feeling unconditional love and the experience of love which is unlimited and totally accepting and embracing. And so it matches what we experience in meditation, and you don't have to go through a near-death experience to have that, but both things seem to connect.
I know that when people come back, some long-term studies of those who have, so to speak, died and then been resuscitated with these modern techniques, the long-term studies show that their lives change quite dramatically, quite often. Their values change. You know, they don't want to live the way that might have led them to have the premature heart attack in the first place.
Right.
They feel as if love is incredibly important, and somehow they'd neglected that component in their life previously.
This is also what I've read, that, you know, when they've had this experience, they feel that they've ignored the very important aspects, and it's been materialistic trivia that they've focused on, and so now they've risen above it in a sense.
So it's in this sense that this inner strength, that you don't actually have to die and come back to sort of get a glimpse of that continuity of consciousness, but through some reflective practices of the kind that you'll be going more into. In fact, I think I'd like to invite us to experience something of that now. Through those practices, you charge the battery of your well-being in some way that is connected then with your resilience.
Yes, you're able to focus your mind to the source and connect, and through that fill yourself with that inner power. Yes.
We've got Sister Manda with us this evening, who is a very experienced meditator and who has been the coordinator of the Brahmakumari's Global Retreat Centre for the last quarter of a century, actually. I'm going to ask Sister Manda if she could give us a taste of what it may feel like to have a meditation of the kind that Sister Jayanti has been describing.
Into a space inside ourselves, there is a reservoir of deep peace. And this really comes with the awareness of oneself as a spiritual being, the essence of peace, a living, thinking, conscient energy. Either keep your eyes open if you're used to coming to the Brahmakumaris and meditating, or close your eyes, but stay alert to the thoughts that are being shared, but also a vibration and an energy that we're creating collectively. Become aware of this space inside yourself. Think of the space at the center of your forehead, just behind the eyes, as a seat of consciousness. And consciousness is that which I really am. A living, thinking, spiritual energy with the capacity and the ability to think, to observe, to discern, and also decipher. And the original nature of I, this spiritual energy, is peace. Peace, not just that in which there is absence of sound or conflict, but in fact a state of being, a state of total harmony inside myself. And I allow myself to drop myself into that space. And when I am in that state of total peace, I'm aware of a deep sense of depth and clarity. An awareness of myself that I have never had before. This clean, pure, soft, gentle, yet profound energy of I, the spiritual entity. And really everything that I do is informed, strictly speaking, by this being that I am. And since I don't allow myself to go to this deep space, I only function from the surface. But from this deep place, I can allow everything to be informed by my true nature. a nature of gentleness, of peace, that makes me totally at ease with myself and puts me in a place of comfort inside myself. And actually it's from this place that I contemplate the possibility of a higher source, unconditional, endless, limitless energy of deep love, of peace, of joy. And I'm connecting with that source from the place of resonance that I feel inside my own self with that source. Not from a place of emptiness or a place of suffering, but resonance. I recognize my own deep spiritual energy, and I resonate with the spiritual energy of the divine. It's this incognito, secret, invisible energy, intelligent energy, that actually is a source of this incredible world that we live in. An incredible and profound intricacy that is at work that I don't know about, I don't consciously know about. But when I'm aware of this divine intelligence, the intelligence that makes itself known to me through its unconditional acceptance of me and all that exists in the world. That is a great power. A power that holds the world. And as I connect with that power, actually, I become the same as that power. And I allow that power to come into this world. Sometimes I may not even know it or notice it, but I know that it is at work with me, through me, for me, around me. All I have to do is create resonance with it. And bring that power here. And I become strong, just like it is. Om Shanti.
So far, so good. Beautiful clarity and experience. But now, a bit more testing perhaps. Our next heading was developing confidence in yourself. Because even though Manda was giving us that flavour of holding yourself to be the peaceful being and the strength that can come if you do that, but we all know that we don't live like that all the time, even for, a fair chunk of the time. Many other things come, and hence many of us lack in the confidence to just leave the opinions of others, the doubts in ourselves, and embrace that beautiful peace. So how do you develop this confidence in yourself? How do you restore yourself to the state where you would be able to resonate, as Manda was putting it, with that beautiful energy of truth?
It was very profound meditation reflection, and I could feel from the atmosphere that Manda had brought us all into a very powerful awareness. So thank you. When I think about why it is we lack self-esteem, self-confidence, if I explore that for a moment, then we can see the answers also. So often it feels that what I deeply believe in, I don't follow through in my life. I'm thinking about, if I sit and think, well, what are the real values in my life that I think are important? And then I see what's going on in terms of my behavior with others, at the workplace, at home. Then there seems to be a big gap between the two. And I think this is what saps the confidence within. And I'm not able to have that sense of self-esteem or regard for myself. And so I think one of the first things that we can do is to, through that journey inwards, come to that experience in a deeper and stronger way of the inner peace which is truly there within me. And in meditation and reflection, it becomes a reality of experience, not just words, but you're able to touch that peace that is within yourself, the truth and the love that is there within. And the more I do this, and what I find is that if I do this especially in the morning, then having experienced that, then it's able to guide me through my day so that I'm more likely to maintain that code of conduct in which I am peaceful and I am adhering to my own core value of truth, responsibility, accuracy, whatever it is I really believe in, but I'm actually then able to walk my talk. And where I don't have that powerful experience of these inner values, especially at the start of the day, then the day goes rushing ahead and things become a bit chaotic and crazy, and I'm not in touch with myself, and there's confusion, and at the end of the day I feel I've let myself down.
So you're on a kind of automatic pilot where your mental conditioning, your instincts from your background, from your habits, those things come to the fore.
Exactly.
And the automatic pilot takes over, and that could take you anywhere kind of thing, whereas this sort of deeper pilot gets forgotten.
I think it was Dr. Bruce Lipton who, in his book, The Biology of Belief, spoke about how 80% of the time our behavior is unconscious. We're not actually choosing what to think and what to say and do. It's, as you said, those patterns are imprinted from childhood, infancy, through to maybe age 7 even. And so they're working all the time. And only 20% of the time for most people is it that there's conscious awareness of their own thinking and feeling processes, and that's guiding them. So yes, it is automatic pilot, as you said. But if I begin my day with time for myself, for reflection, for experiencing who I am, connecting with the inner being, then that's going to be a good start. And I'm more likely to follow that inner conscience and my own inner compass if I've done that. And what I've also found is that if through the day there can be even a few moments of pause in which you're not just rushing around. And of course what's happened today is that, there used to be a time when you met somebody and then you were walking down the road, you were reflecting on how the conversation had been, what had happened, and how it had evolved, and whether it achieved what you wanted it to achieve. But today we don't give ourselves those spaces anymore. What we do is, in those spaces that we used to have, we're now looking at our emails on our mobiles. We're walking down the road, or even trying to walk down the stairs, and we're reading something, or we're listening to something. And so those spaces that we used to have for reflection between one thing and the next thing, we've lost all those. We've made ourselves lose all those. And so now to come back again and create that space inside between things that I'm doing. I don't think anybody, not even somebody like me who lives in the meditation center, is actually able to sit down and meditate through the day. My time is in the morning and so on. But through the day, just having a pause, just to reflect and connect within, and again come back to awareness and real consciousness and connecting with the self, then that's more likely to keep me on track. Then I'm using the values that I know are truly my values in my life, and that begins to allow my own confidence in myself to increase. That's one very definite, guaranteed way to increase my confidence. A second thing, and what's happened is that because we feel so empty inside, and that's also because we've forgotten our own spiritual identity, and we've got caught up in all the external material things, we try to fill that emptiness with all sorts of habits and addictions, whether it's substance addictions, whether it's shopping addiction, all sorts of things. And so
apparently even answering emails, you get a little shot of serotonin with each email that you answer. So that's why those can become addictive too.
Absolutely, definitely. Question: what's the first thing you do when you awaken in the morning? Is it that you check your phone? What are the messages that have come in through the night before? Or is it that you give yourself a moment of gratitude for life, a moment of thanksgiving to the divine for a new day, a new beginning? Each day is a new beginning. And so yes, emails and tablets and mobiles have really taken over.
And shopping, work, so many addictive behaviours that somehow seem to fill that gap. I think I was really, for many years, I was a workaholic, and it meant so much to me to sort of assert the fact that I was alive and I existed and I counted was my work. And it was an addiction, so eventually it was absolutely wearing me out.
Right. So all of these things come, and what I've found is that, we talk about willpower. Now that power again, this word comes in. So where am I going to develop the willpower? I know that this particular substance, whether it's cigarettes or alcohol or drugs, whatever, is damaging my body, is damaging my health, it's damaging my mind. But I can't do anything about it. I'll feel I'm weak, I don't have the power. Well, meditation again gives that inner strength and restores my willpower and my will to be able to do something that I want to do, which I know is right. Otherwise, so often we know what we should be doing, and yet we don't quite manage it. We don't have the willpower. And so that spiritual power, one reflection of that is also the willpower to be able to stay on track and do what I need to do.
I think it's a good point at which to ask Manda again to lead us into another experience of this, actually. Is that okay, Manda?
As we sit quietly and sit still, we notice the stillness that's around us. And this vibration and energy of stillness allows the body to become still, and also the mind. And in a sense, what we're doing is making the canvas of our mind clean. And it's this clean space this empty space, not empty of anything good, but empty of distractions and attractions that make us lose ourselves in the world around us. And in fact, the greatest aspect of confidence in the self is to recognize that I must return to myself. The self, actually, that's always there. I just need to turn my mind towards myself. And this self that's always there is the self of deep quietness and reflection, introspection. And actually, when I become introspective, then the world outside of me can truly become like a movie that I observe and watch, and actually even entertain myself with. But when you're watching a movie, you're sitting firmly on your seat, safe, protected, comfortable. So it's important to create that space of comfort inside the self. And knowing that in the beginning, we have to give ourselves that time. Because in a sense, we're reversing a habit that we've had for a long time. Instead of looking out, go inside. And think of this going inside as a time for rest. Resting your mind, resting your heart. The turmoils of emotions tire us. But it's the greatest gift that I can give to myself. And as I keep doing that, moment by moment, those moments become minutes, and minutes become hours. And then I can begin to paint a picture of myself. Who do I want to be? What do I want to be? And how do I want to be? Why do I want to be this? Because I recognize that I am an incredible, profound, and deeply compassionate and generous being, actually whose intrinsic nature is to give, is to share. And this is who I am. And when I start to live like this, I begin to have confidence in myself, because I am returning to that gracious, beautiful, unconditional, truly spiritual self. And my head and my heart feel the same thing at the same time. My head and my words are in unison with one another. My words and my actions are also the same. Then I can put my hand on my heart each night, at the end of each day, and know that I have been the best I could be today. And whenever I haven't been, I give myself a chance to begin again. And again, until I no longer need to do that. Om Shanti.
So we're building up a good picture here of this inner truth, which we have to rekindle the light of that inside ourselves. And then there's going to be something of a fight. You're going to be on a battlefield where you have to be attentive, you have to top up your battery during the day, you have to make sure that you set your mind in the right way at the beginning of the day, and in that way, the deeper self and that inner strength can start to overcome the negative tendencies that cause us problems.
It sounds like hard work.
I think it is.
But in fact, it's a very joyful journey also. There's a great happiness that one experiences, a tremendous feeling of great love, and a feeling of friendship with many, many, many individuals. And it's not a lonely path. It's one in which you make many friends, you find many companions on the journey who are on the same path, and you move along together. And so, yes, it is a struggle inside, but there's also the fruits of that. You get the benefits of the inner work that you're doing in a very magnificent way.
Right, which brings us to the third topic that was flagged up in the flyer for this evening, which is finding power to face and overcome obstacles in life. And this is really where this word resilience starts to be very relevant, because life throws all sorts of things at us, some beautiful experiences, some really testing, and finding the power to face and overcome these obstacles. This is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. Could you share your thoughts about that?
As I draw that power within myself, I find myself able to face situations that I definitely wouldn't have been prepared to deal with before. I'm thinking of a situation in Brazil, and we'd finished a program, something similar to this, and it was another sister and myself who had walked out, and we'd come to her car, and we sat in the car, and she started the engine, and she tried to wind up the window, and it wasn't going. And this is before the days when you just could press the button, and it wasn't going up. And she looked around and she saw somebody with a gun at her, pointing at her. And it was a young man And she looked at him, and he said, "I want that." And he pointed to her purse. And her purse didn't have very much in it. She said it's really nothing, because she'd come out to a program. And she then looked further, and she found the special sweet that had been wrapped beautifully. And so she picked that up and gave it to him and said, "This is something very special, filled with a lot of love." And he took it with a look of surprise and then broke into a smile and left. And he went away. Real story. And I think it was just that vibration of the power of love, the power of awareness, of understanding, of seeing another as a human being, no matter what the situation and circumstances were, and that shifted everything. And so I don't know how many of you will ever find yourself in a situation like that. Maybe not, I hope not, but maybe difficult, challenging people. And all you have to do is to really stay in your own awareness of who you are and see them with that vision of pure love, and something will shift. There'll be a change of energy, there'll be a change of behavior, and something else will happen. Really.
I want to explore this a little bit more, but we're going to have space to answer a few questions can be put to Sister Jayanti, and we've got a number I think might go up here, with which you can text your question through, because it might be a problem to get a mic all around the room, but or if you can stand up and belt it out would be fine when we come to that point. But I've got a phone here, and it might actually work that if you text your thing, I will be able to pick it up and deal with it. So you're very welcome to do that over the next little period. It's 07951 081 610. Can you all read that? Those that need to see it? Great. Okay, so very welcome to give your input in that way. Now I just want to explore this a little bit more, because it's one thing where somebody appears at the car door and you find a sweet and you give it to them and they go away. That's great. But I know that you have faced some situations where you have said that it sometimes for years you have not been able to handle your relationship with certain very difficult individuals. And I know that you made a breakthrough with act of enormous humility. What part does humility play in developing the resilience that really can allow us to overcome the challenges in life?
Huge part. What happens is that very often we get stuck in a position because of our own ego. And because of our ego, we're unwilling to shift from that. But if I can have a spiritual consciousness in which there's a very natural state of humility that comes, then with that humility, I can review my position and see if there's something else I can do. Is there a different approach, a different way of doing things, of connecting with that person, meeting that person, speaking to that person? And just the spirit of humility then is able to reach out to them, and their response will also be a warm one. And even if it isn't in your first trial, not to give up, just to keep trying again. Again, it takes a lot of humility, because the normal position is that I've tried, why should I try again? Now it's up to them. Very easy to get into that. But no, let me try once more. Let me keep trying. And if I know that this is the right track that I'm on, that it is possible for me to change my position and take a different stance, let me keep trying that, and something will succeed.
Very interesting. The very first question to come through: how to have positive and pure thoughts for the people whom we absolutely hate. Wonderful, thank you, whoever that was. You've kind of half answered that, but I've got an adjunct question to this. There's a difference between resilience, isn't there? There's a difference between resilience and giving in to people who make the most noise or the most difficulties. How do you distinguish between those two?
Okay, can I come to that a bit later?
Yeah.
I want us to explore the question of hate. I think maybe the first aspect to be aware of is the damage that I'm doing to myself if I allow a feeling of hatred to continue. Never mind what it's doing to the other and the vibrations and the negativity that I'm generating that's impacting the atmosphere and really spoiling things for me and everybody else. But it's actually poison for myself. Feelings of hatred are going to be killing the spirit of consciousness that I'm trying to cultivate and develop. And hatred is also going to be generating poison in my own body, in my own system. There's a lot of evidence that when you have good feelings, then the physiology of the body is responding in a very positive way. And when there's negative emotions and negative feelings that are very strong as this, the body is reacting to that. And really we found that there's a very strong connection between what's going on the inner level with the body and what's going on with the mind. I think, again, over the last 30, 40 years, it's been something that's been more and more researched, and so the whole aspect of psychosomatic illness is something that we know about quite a lot now. So, firstly, just for my own sake, let me stop hating anyone or anything. First step.
There's a saying connected to that summarises it in a sense that a failure to forgive is like drinking poison in the hope that it will kill your enemy.
Correct, absolutely. So let me get myself safe from that position. Then the question of taking it a step further, and how do I actually begin to have good wishes for that individual, because what happens is that whatever it is that I'm going through inside myself, those vibrations reach out. Your eyes tell them what's going on inside of you. The windows are very powerful and they reveal everything. Your body language is going to say the same. Your tone of voice is going to change. And so if truly I want to move forward in my own spiritual journey, you know, at Christmas there's this expression, good wishes and good tidings for all, good feelings and good wishes for everyone. So every year at Christmas we sort of sing about this, and then we probably forget it. But it is a very powerful message to remember and to follow through in our life. That I have to have good wishes and good feelings. Firstly, for myself. Interesting. Am I able to do that? And most of us don't have good wishes for ourselves. We don't know how to have good wishes for ourselves. And so let me learn to do that, so that I'm doing whatever is the best that I can for myself. And then I can have good wishes for others too. And the power of good wishes work beautifully. In my own life, I've sometimes experienced that maybe things that I couldn't have changed myself within my own world, the good wishes of others have helped me do that and have helped me move forward. And so my good wishes for others can help others move forward and shift and change also. So I think it's a very important point to learn in terms of our own life, but also our relationships with each one. You mentioned this aspect of forgiveness. Again, even if somebody has done something which is not right, there's been an injustice against me. If I don't forgive them, I'm holding myself in bondage, in prison. And if I can let go and forgive, remembering that I've done things and I've been forgiven by others, I've been forgiven by the grace of God, and so I've been able to move forward. Now it's time for me to do the same for others too. Then I'll find that inner freedom that I'm looking for. And so spirituality helps you look at things in a very big way. There's this expression, not just an expression, it's the first commandment actually. Love thy neighbour as you would love yourself. Well, how come we don't love our neighbours? The commandment tells you, if I don't love myself, I'm not going to be able to love my neighbours. But if I can love myself, and it's connected with your first question about confidence, how do I develop that confidence in myself? How can I love myself when I see those inner values that I carry and I begin to follow those values through in my life? I'm going to start being able to value myself, give respect to myself, have confidence in myself, and even be able to love myself. Then I can start loving others too. So spirituality tells me that if I'm hating someone, it's actually because I'm also hating myself. I don't know how to live with myself. You actually see people who it looks as if they feel uncomfortable in their own skin. They're sort of edgy all the time. And it's a serious issue. We don't know how to love ourselves. Tonight when you get home, and when you're brushing your teeth before you go to bed, look in the mirror, and even if you don't believe it today, fake it till you make it, and tell yourself, I love myself. Look at yourself just here, because this is the location of that inner being, that being of light that I am. And so look here and say, I love myself.
I think that might be an answer to one of the many questions that are coming through, many. And actually, I think Manchester Inner Space is going to have to invite you back pretty soon to handle some of these questions, because there's a lot of really good things coming through. And forgive me, those of you who perhaps were first in with the question, I'm not so good with handling this, and so I don't know the order that they came in. I'm going to ask you one now that I've got in front of me, which might be relevant for a lot of people, but I think probably that your last point might be a way of answering it. I'm new to meditation and find that my mind is busy, so for now, simply coming into my body for short periods to detach from the mind is all I can manage. How can I implement Raja Yoga into my life so that I can benefit from that? So the person's troubled by their mind, the busyness in the mind. They find that sort of to absorb themselves in the body is a way of escaping that chatter, the destructive chatter. But how can Raja Yoga help?
There's a very simple technique that I practice, which is very useful. Be here and visualize yourself as that inner being, that being of light, and feel how this being that I am is now looking out through these eyes. This being is the being that's actually listening through the ears, because these are just organs, and they actually they hear the sound, but who is it that's actually listening and interpreting the sounds or the sights that these eyes are seeing? Is this inner being. And so it's a very simple practice. It sounds almost childish. It's very simple. But it has a very profound impact when I come back here and I just focus on who is it who's seeing, who is it who's actually listening, who is it who's doing whatever it is that's going on. And so that sense of being the master in charge of my physical body is the first step. And the second step then is to just go inside and start exploring what's going on inside this world of mine. And yes, there's a level of thoughts, and thoughts move very rapidly, many different directions. But when I come to the awareness of I, the soul, then I know that I, the inner being, am the creator of my own thoughts. And I can choose the type of thoughts to create when I know I'm a soul. When I think I'm this body, I have no control over my mind. And that's been our experience for most of our life. Our mind is running to the past, our mind is running to the future, and I'm sitting here, but I'm distracted, thinking what's going on at home. But no, I, the master, first of the body, and then I, the inner being, the master of my own thoughts, and beginning to see if I can move my thoughts in the direction of the awareness of who I truly am and the inner qualities of the self. And so if I can move my thoughts in the right direction, then all the other things that were the distractions begin to fade away, and I'm able to focus my thoughts in a pure direction.
Here's a good one for following on from that. How can we avoid falling back into maladaptive conditioned behaviour in our daily routine, as most likely tomorrow we will be the same and today's change does not last long? Om Shanti. I think here, when you chided me earlier, when you said I was making it sound hard work, and you said it can be joy, from my own experience, it's when you sort of really glimpse that loving relationship and the joy available in the relationship with the Supreme, that the real power starts to develop. In my case, because I was such a hardline materialist, it took me a long time to taste that. But would that be part of your answer?
Definitely, because when you're tasting the fruit of the effort that you've made, that's a beautiful incentive to keep going further. And so, yes, when I begin to experience that unlimited love and unconditional love, it's a very powerful motivation to carry on with my practice. And yes, it is possible to fall back, but it's not necessary that I should fall back. It is also possible that because I see the benefit, I want to continue, and I'm going to carry on moving forward. I'll give you one particular example. Here's somebody who's making me very irritable, and they're getting me to the point where I'm beginning to get angry. And I ask myself the question, well, how come they have power over me and I don't have power over my own mind? Is it possible for me to let that situation of irritation stay out there and for me to go inside and find my own power of peace within and make that become so strong that it protects me from the irritation, and maybe it's even able to come to the point where this inner power of peace is able to calm them down so that they're not behaving in the way that they were before, and it begins to work.
Again, a related question. How do you know when to stop helping someone so that person can help themselves, even though you have to watch them suffer?
A hard one. I think you have to just be very connected with the inner beings. Let me use a word to describe this. We use its term soul consciousness, awareness of the soul, awareness of the inner being. So in that stage of soul consciousness, if my genuine concern and my only motive is to actually help them move forward, I'll give them tools, I'll give them guidelines But it's not that I allow them to become dependent on me. And so it's got to be, that inner state in which I'm truly detached. I'm concerned, I'm loving, but I'm not seeking any return in terms of, where sometimes you help another, but you want them to be dependent on you because you need to be needed. You feel comfortable that they need you. Well, real service is not where I make them dependent, but a real service is when I've allowed them to grow and move forward. And so I think I just have to make sure that I have no expectation of that return from them in that way. It's not that I need that. I have to be free from that. Then they'll learn to grow further.
I think there's probably a principle that would be an answer to quite a few of the questions that have come. This principle that the more you charge yourself with this strength, then the more you can see clearly how to help another, instead of having any neediness on your part, which as Manda indicated with her commentary, obscures your ability to see clearly what's going on. So it's a wonderful principle. I'm afraid time-wise, we're going to have to wind up, because I'd like to ask Sister Jayanti to lead us in a closing meditation. But if I can get it back, there was one that I thought I would just finish with here. Here we are. Sister Jayanti, how many hours in a day can you keep up with your current calmness plus control? Surely you falter too.
Absolutely. And there are people in this room who know me for decades, and so they know that it's not always possible. But I think they'll also vouch that they've seen me change, right?
Would you say the other direction as well? Not sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen change.
All right, then I've seen you change.
No, that's not acceptable. But yes, we know each other for many years. You learn what's going to be of benefit for you and what's going to be of benefit for others. And hopefully you continue to then move forward. And you learn from your mistakes. And I know that the mistakes I have made have taught me a great deal of humility. And so I think that that's allowed me to move forward also. So it's possible. You can begin by being quite reactive, and I was very reactive, and you can learn to be more and more steady and stable and more calm.
Thank you so much. Would you like to lead us in a closing meditation, somehow summarising this? There are lots of really interesting questions. It hurts me not to be able to put more to you, but maybe something could be done whereby... Yeah, have we got time? Are we okay? It's 5 to 9. No, it's 10 to. Okay, I'll read some more out. How do I help my child to build resilience, especially when I find it difficult to meditate myself? How to have... done that one, sorry. How to condition the mind to work under consciousness as autopilot. So that would be like, I think that I understand this, so that it's like where Amanda was speaking of heart and head both working together. How can you ensure you stay strongly connected with people that have passed away without it fading with time? How do we overcome the challenge of the loss of a loved one? How would you describe what inner resilience feels like in your body and physically? How to be resilient when high anxiety is present because of illness, something we have no control over. How can I as a mother increase or instill the inner strength in my children? How do you stop feeling alone when friends or people constantly let you down? How can you be assertive and not let yourself down in difficult situations? Does forgiveness, love, and compromise result in being boundaryless, ultimately resulting in those things that I feel define me being diluted? Does forgiveness, love, and compromise result in being boundaryless, ultimately resulting in those things that I feel define me being diluted? I have severe sinus problem blocking my breathing, and also loud tinnitus whistling in my ears. How can I concentrate to meditate, please? How to deal with difficult relationships that drain you down every single day in the domestic setting. That one I've done. And test message. I think we may be through. Forgive me if you'd asked something that I've missed here, but thank you so much for those questions. See what immense riches of and interest there is here.
I'm trying to think about how we could use technology to be able to set up a webinar so that at least these questions could be addressed. And what I'm thinking is that it would be possible to set up an hour at some point when we could specifically take up those questions. And if you stay in touch with Inner Space in Manchester, they'd be able to let you know when we can organise that and how it can be organised. I don't know enough about technology just to make a decision on my own now as to what we could do to set it up. But
possibly through the website something could happen.
Probably. Okay, so, but there's one question that really moved me, so I'd like to just address that because it's a very practical thing. And yes, sometimes it's the physical body that pulls us and doesn't allow us to meditate, and somebody's had the courage to put it in a question, but it might be a situation that's also impacting others. If I really go deeper and deeper inside and come to the awareness of the soul, then whatever's going on externally really tends to become calm. My breathing becomes much deeper. Having that awareness that I, the soul, exist as a separate entity from this physical body means that when I allow myself to feel the soul, then the breathing becomes much deeper and I'm able to detach from whatever is going on anywhere else. The capacity to tolerate pain, to be able to go beyond that, that also happens in a very natural way through meditation. And so let's experiment with meditation, and we've had 2 beautiful reflections already, and so you know how to let your mind be free from the awareness of the body, but let's try it again once more. And even if you just have a little experiment now and you continue with that experiment, Ruth is going to tell us more about courses and things that you can come to, but certainly even whatever you pick up now, just experiment with that, not just now but at home, tomorrow, the next day, until you come again to one of the sessions. I reflect on the things I've been hearing about and go inside and I watch my thoughts and simply watching my thoughts slows down the speed and I select one thought, the thought of peace. I hold peace in my mind and as I hold peace, I begin to get a feeling of peace. I become peaceful and in this awareness of peace, I can feel the presence of the divine. And my thoughts connect with the source of love, of truth, of power. And from the source of love, the love that reaches the soul, is able to heal the sorrow that I carry, and I can let go. The power of God's love allows my heart to become generous. And as I forgive, the sorrow that I was carrying dissolves. And the power of love heals the soul and fills me with love. And as I fill myself with the power of God's love, I am transformed. And the highest potential of the soul emerges. The power of God's love nurtures the highest qualities within me. And the power of God's love fills me with courage to be able to do that which I know is right. And the power of God's love reaches out touching human hearts, filling them with strength and hope, and the power of God's love transforms nature itself, so the nature returns to a state of harmony. And the power of God's love creates a better world for all of us.
Well, a big thank you to Sister Jayanti, to Neville, to Sister Manda. From your faces, it looks and sounds as if you've enjoyed this evening. Could you just put your hand up and give a wave to Sister Jayanti and Neville if you're here for the first time at an Inner Space program? Wow. Warm, warm welcome. Thank you. That seems like half. I'm not sure. But we also are very fortunate to have the Dean of Manchester Cathedral, who's got up from his sickbed, literally, to come back into work today. And at least 3 interfaith ministers here. Beautiful. And that's one of the most beautiful things about Inner Space. It's a spiritual gathering of people, spiritual seekers, all looking for tips and tools to be the best they possibly can be and give the best they can. And if you want some moments of calm, a bit of time out from work or from shopping or anything else, you're welcome to come. We're open 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m, Monday to Saturday.
Some time ago, I was invited to a weekend retreat in Oxfordshire, and I went for the weekend retreat, and ever since then, I've been a strong follower. I've been going to Inner Space in Manchester, to the silent room several times a week, because the energy there is just amazing. And the talks are fantastic every few weeks. All of it's so moving, all of it's so positive in such a world today, with all the negatives, that the number of things. The one question about hate, and hate destroys you, it's a poison within you. And those were very strong words, and they really made me realise.
Oh, I get emails, and I heard when I was down at Inner Space, and I get emails from Inner Space, so...
Do you enjoy the program?
Very much, yes. I always feel, whenever I've been to anything to do with Inner Space, I always feel much better leaving than when arriving. So, you know.
What was the one thing you took from the program tonight?
I think it was to persevere, to understand that a spiritual path, it's not like a cure. It's not like going to the doctors where you get a cure and then you're better. It's something that you must continue. You must continue all the time. And every now and again, you find that you may be slipping, the principles that you're working towards are falling away. And there was one particular poignant part where Sister Jayanti was saying that we've got to keep on at this, we've got to keep. We will start falling, we will start wavering. And then I think meetings like this and going to places like Inner Space, and I quite often go to the centre in Leeds, it just reaffirms, and then you can go home and find that peace and say, yes, I was on the right path. But I think what happens, it's a natural thing, is the ego, because this is what we're doing, we're pushing the ego away. We're taking its control away, and the ego keeps coming back and saying, no, I'm in charge. And it's being able to recognise that and just bestow.
Thank you so much for that. And how did you hear about tonight's program?
Just through email.
Through email.
Yes.
And did you enjoy the program?
Very much. I love Sister Jayanti.
What
Yes.
was the one thing you took from the program tonight that you remember?
Inspiration by her example. She's such an example. Yes. She's inspirational, encouraging. You think you're going nowhere, but hopefully you are.
What's tonight's program?
On the Facebook page, yeah, Inner Spaces Facebook, they put the events on, and I like the sound of it, and I wanted to meet her as well. Yeah.
Did you enjoy the program?
Yeah, lovely. Give me a few things to think about and a few pointers to pass on to my son.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you took from the program?
I like the bit. Do you mean to dissect a little bit what she said? Yeah, she said you reflect. When you get up in the morning, you check your phone. And in between gaps where you used to reflect now, instead if you've got a gap, you're checking your phone, you're answering emails, you need to reflect. So that's what I'm going to take and do that. I'm going to tell my son to do it as well, because he's always on his phone.
I looked upon the Brahma Kumari's website, and I heard about this program, and the founder of Brahma Kumaris, who was going to come here. Well, she's not the founder, but she's the coordinator of the Europe, Jayanti Ben, and I felt that she would spiritually help me in my progress towards becoming a calmer person.
Did you enjoy the program?
I loved it. I loved the meditation, because when the commentary was going on, it made me feel so calm and peaceful, and that's what I need in my everyday life.